everybody. Welcome back to the Music Buds podcast. This is episode number 39, and my name is Henry. This week, I'm honored to be joined by composer Anne Nikitin, known for her recent work on the Netflix series Fate, the Winx Saga, as well as the David Bowie biopic Stardust, The Pale Horse, the Agatha Christie miniseries, and one of my favorite films, American Animals. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Well, how's life, first of all, for you?
Oh, it's okay, thank you. Trying to cope with the stresses of work and homeschooling and lockdown and all of that, but muddling by.
Yeah. Well, I guess just kind of kicking things off, how is it that you got started with music? Was being a composer something you had always had interest in?
Yeah, ever since I can remember, I've wanted to write music and be involved with music in some way. But I never really anticipated having a career in music until I was sort of at university age, I guess. And so I always had piano lessons and did really well in music. You know, my music lessons at school, just really loved them, I should say. I was passionate about them. I had some amazing teachers who really helped me to excel in that area. And then when I got to university, I was doing an English degree, and I kept looking at the music kids going to their music department and really missing it and really craving to do harmony and all those crazy things. So I finished my English and I went into music, and it was a very avant-garde kind of course in composition, which I totally loved. But at the end of it, I decided I wanted to go into film music. Yeah. So then I moved to London because that was happening in Canada. I moved to London and I went into film music.
Yeah. Was before that, was film music something you had, when you would watch movies, TV shows, was that something that you were kind of consciously aware of, or was it more so just the actual process of making the music that kind of drew you to that?
I wasn't really aware of film music certainly as a career choice until my late teens. But I guess I always heard it and it seeped in. And then as I became older and more aware of it, I thought, actually, maybe this is something I'd like to do, because through my love of English literature and storytelling, I thought I could marry the two disciplines. I thought, storytelling and music equals film. And so that's what I wanted to do.
And of course, we can talk about a lot of different things, but the new show, Fate, the Winx Saga on Netflix, which, is such a cool show. It's like this kind of magical kind of fairy tale. It has so many different, almost like an X-Men vibe in some ways. How did you get involved with that project? Because it seems like it would be such an interesting one to be a part of.
It was, and I was ecstatic, when I landed that job, because it was exactly the type of series I wanted to do, and I thought I could have fun with the music. I got onto that because I'd worked with the music supervisor before on a film called 4 Kids in It, which is a kids fantasy series. And he just thought I'd be right for this one. So he recommended me to Brian Young, who's the creator of Fate, the Winx Saga. And it just happened really quickly. I hopped on a call with Brian and we hit it off really well. We were just laughing a lot and shared the same vision for the music for his show. He told me all about it and I was coming up with ideas. And then I wrote some themes for him and he really seemed to like them. And then that was it. And then I was on board quite early in the process, which was great because I felt like a real part of the team right from the beginning. And I could tell that Brian took music very seriously and really wanted me to be involved all the time. So we were in at least weekly chats throughout the whole process.
Oh, cool. And one thing with this kind of show is there are so many different characters, so many different styles. When you're making the music, are you like doing specific themes or styles for certain characters, or is it more so a broader scope to try and do the music for?
Yeah. Well, at the beginning, when I was sketching out the initial ideas, I did think about the main character, Bloom's theme, and what kind of sounds I could imagine for her power, especially she has the power of fire. And then alongside of that, I was just thinking about general atmospheric music. What did I want the music to be for this other world that Brian had created? And, and then what are the themes for the other characters? So the other characters came later. So once I'd established what this other world sound was going to be, and everybody seemed to be on board with that, then I could become a bit more detailed and go into each character's theme. And because they each have a power, a specific power, I wanted them to have a specific theme. So it's not like they have these, you're not always going to hear it, but sometimes there are little nuggets of themes that you could just hear floating in and out when they're on screen.
Yeah. I think that comes through because I think it would be an interesting process, as you were just describing, where kind of once you have the groundwork, you kind of have a pretty open palette for the creation process.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was fun about the score is that it wasn't your sort of typical fairy tale magic. It was touted as Harry Potter, a sort of darker Harry Potter
right.
series. But we definitely didn't want to go down that sort of, that beautiful John Williams kind of score. We wanted something that was a bit more gritty and a bit more urban in places, and something that could also complement the commercial tracks that were being put into the show, which are very of the now. They wanted something that was at least not more than sort of 6 months old, and something that the kids now could relate to. So my score had to sort of touch on that as well.
Yeah. And when you're doing this, where is it that you're, I guess, for lack of a better word, drawing inspiration from? Do you listen to much music in general, or are you kind of just drawing from a variety of different places, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of both, actually. So if I'm really stuck, I will definitely scroll through soundtracks and other music, rock music, classical music. If I have to use certain synth beats, I'll listen to a lot of tracks with those kind of sounds, just to try and get my head around all the different genres and just to be inspired. And it's really important to listen and just sort of let yourself go and be inspired. And then suddenly you'll be in the shower and go, oh yeah, this is what I've got to come up with. And, which is a cliche, but it always happens.
Yeah.
And then other times it'll just come quite naturally. I'll just watch something and I'll suddenly hear it and not have that writer's block. So.
Yeah. And I mean, and you were just talking about it, but so are you typically, like, when you're like, in the studio making the music, does it happen all that often when you're outside and just everyday life and music comes to you? You might just be at the grocery store or something. And do you ever get cues in your head like, oh, that might be interesting, I might try that?
Totally, all the time. And I think part of the composition process is taking that time to get away from your studio and go and live your life and take a walk around the block. And because I find that when your brain relaxes, and the shower cliche is real, because you are so relaxed in the shower, walking around, that is when the thoughts come to me. So I always have my I've got my phone on me, but I've got my app now, and I always sing. I pretend I'm on the phone so I don't look weird on the street. And I kind of like hum the ideas into it, but it really helps. Yeah, I mean, it's all part of work. Taking a walk, honestly, is work.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, and I mean, that show is great. And then also with this recent David Bowie biopic, Stardust, like when that was announced, it was just so exciting because, I mean, I love David Bowie, and as I'm sure many do, and I feel like there might be a lot of pressure coming into that project. I mean, obviously he's a legendary figure. What was the process like for you getting on that film, or doing the music for that film?
Yeah, I mean, that was scary. Definitely scary when I got the call for that one. I had a lot of conversations with the director and Johnny Flynn as well, who plays David Bowie. We met up together a few times and really discussed what we wanted out of the music. And we decided we didn't want to pastiche any of Bowie's music because that would just sound really awful. And I really like and respect David Bowie, and the more I've gotten to understand his music and read about him and watch him, he's just an incredible legend. Yeah. But I'm not one of those crazy Uber fans where I know every single song and every single chord. And I think that really helped because it meant then that I could distance myself from that and not unwittingly pastiche it. I could, I could sort of stay away from that quite naturally, which was beneficial, I think. And Johnny Flynn came over and we tampered with some ideas and tried to sort of stay away and captivate that era still, but not in a David Bowie pastiche way.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, because I feel like while someone, who might be a diehard fan, in a sense, they could do a good job in a way, but also they may be just too close to the material to really, like, in a sense, give it justice, or give it the objective style that it may need.
Yeah, that was my thinking anyway. Because I imagine if I did something about The Cure, I would just be pastiching The Cure.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a really fun project to work on, and I thought it was a really interesting snippet into a young Bowie's life on this road trip he went on, and it sort of reminded me of what it's like to be a young struggling artist that no one wants to listen to it, and you forget that these megastars started from somewhere and had so much rejection to begin with and contend with, and how do you fight those demons and how do you pick yourself up? And I think this movie really showed that part of him.
Yeah, totally. And with that being said, with you having done this for quite some time now, has the process changed, or has your perspective changed on either yourself creating music or the industry itself? Have you noticed anything different mentality wise?
I'm not sure about the industry really. I mean, actually, they're accepting more women now, which is a whole other conversation. Yeah, but I've definitely noticed that in the last 5 years. It's been quite phenomenal, and a very positive thing, especially in Hollywood with the bigger budget films. In terms of my own position as a composer, definitely things have changed as I've gotten older and more experienced. I was incredibly self-conscious when I was starting out, and I just remember the first few jobs I was on when I would have to play my music in the edit suite, and I just wanted to cringe. I just wanted to leave the room. I really hated everyone listening to my music and me being in the spotlight suddenly, and then they have to make a judgment call right there and then, and that was just the worst.
Oh man, yeah.
So I've gotten used to that now. I think I've become more used to people listening there and the knocks as well, and not taking it personally when directors want changes, and working very closely with directors and having more confidence to give them my ideas as well.
Yeah. And one thing that I've noticed with really so many of these projects that you've worked on is they're really always very layered. I feel like there are so many interesting ideas, whether it's the Stardust or Fate or like the Pale Horse, for example, the Agatha Christie series. I feel that having that complexity, not only as a viewer, it's interesting, but also I would feel like as an artist, creating the music, that would be very stimulating as well.
No, you're absolutely right, and I think it's those little layers that we like to unpeel, and it helps with the music as well, giving the music a bit more complexity and density, and being able to come up with something that's a bit more bold, maybe not just your bog standard sound that everyone's heard. I think when the program is like that, it lends itself to a more interesting score, I guess.
Yeah, and with the Pale Horse, like it's another kind of legendary, coming from legendary author, and it's only a few episodes, but it's so intense, and it has that kind of nail biting suspense, and your music really adds to that. It has that it doesn't overtake the story, because obviously the the story itself is already so dramatic.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is very intense, the entire story. And I just loved working on that. It was a great team, and I just thought it was beautifully shot and acted and just sumptuous. I just really couldn't take my eyes off the screen.
Yeah.
And so that was a real treat to work on. And with the music, again, there were lots of layers, not only trying to uncover the mystery of what's going on and capture the atmosphere, but there was also the witches side. So you had that sort of otherworldly part of it, which I really loved experimenting with. I was using vocals for that one. And then also capturing the period as well a little bit without writing traditional period music for it. I was trying to delve into that world.
Yeah. And do you find with like an Agatha Christie story or with Fate that have these quite big fan bases, is does the pressure ever seep into your mind when you're doing music, or are you able to just kind of block all that outside elements out and just do the work regardless of what project it is?
Yeah, I usually block it out because you also never know how it's going to be received, and you just don't know. And I just think that doesn't matter. I've just got to make the best program I can make, the best music I can make for it, and work with this team to come up with the goods. And then if it does well, that's great. And then with Fate, there was the pressure of having the animated Netflix series upon which it's based. But I decided early on to stay away from that because it is a very different beast. It's the new one's a lot darker. It's for a different audience, an older audience. And so I didn't want to lean on the animated series for that.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I mentioned it at the beginning, but American Animals from a couple years ago, I wanted to make sure to tell you that film I talked about it with my co-host on the film podcast that I do, and we were just absolutely through the roof about it. And like we have brought it up so many times. It's just kind of it really stuck with us. And so I just wanted to tell you, like, and your music being very much a part of it, like we really connected with that movie, and it really left an impact on us.
Oh, that's so great. That's so nice. I'll tell Bart.
Yeah, please. And with you having, done a lot of different projects over the years, are you someone who enjoys watching movies, TV shows on your downtime?
Yeah, absolutely. I do love watching movies and shows when it is downtime, because when it's not downtime, it's almost impossible. But and sadly, I've sort of stopped listening to music because I'm so involved with music every day, and I have to listen to my own stuff, sadly, all day, every day for hours on end, that at the end of the day, I just want quiet. So I've been missing listening to music and sort of losing that passion, because I was so in love with bands and music and, listening to it constantly. But television and film is different. I can just sit there and relax and watch it and decompress. Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned it earlier, in terms of getting involved with whatever project it is. How does it usually start? For example, like with Fate or with American Animals, are you getting a script first, or are you seeing footage of something, or does it really change every single time?
Yeah, it changes every single time. For American Animals, because I'd worked with Bart before on his film The Imposter, we knew we were going to work together, and he sent me the script before it was even finished, so I could have an idea of what he was up to. And we had very early meetings about the type of music he wanted, and the type of commercial music he really wanted as well. And then I started sketching ideas before he'd even gone to shoot the film. And I'd say 50% of them stuck and became the main themes, and then the other 50 got chucked out. But that's very common.
Yeah.
And you never know what's going to work until you start editing. So something might sound amazing, but you put it to picture and it doesn't work, and vice versa. So, but I did have a lot of time starting early to experiment, which we needed because it's such a complex film that we all needed a lot of time to get to grips with the edit and the music as well. So that was good. And then similarly on Fate, I came on board quite early when they were still shooting part of it, and they had started editing episode 1. And again, that was brilliant because I got to spend the time just sketching lots and lots of ideas and seeing what stuck in the edits. And I could give the editors a bunch of my music and they could start placing it as they were cutting. So that avoids the traumatic experience of listening to guide music and having the director say, I love that guide music and I want you to copy it.
Yeah.
so
yeah, for sure. And yeah, I feel like it would be it would be interesting, I guess, coming in on a project like that and to have perhaps doing music for one scene, but then maybe seeing it end up in another, and it could, work just as well, if not better. And so I think that's maybe as an artist that could, kind of pull you slightly, but I feel like that could be kind of a interesting outcome as well.
Totally. I think some musicians are a bit precious about that, but I actually really love the collaboration between myself and the editor or the director. And I do love to send ideas to the editor. And if I'm not scoring straight to picture, I'll say, look, just try things. And if you need stems, let's just try things and then tell me what you think is working. And I will develop that and create variations. Because I do think film and TV is a collaborative experience for everybody. And it's, as a composer, you have to remember it's not yours, it is, you're part of a whole. And it's different to creating your own album where, you own it completely. But I think with film and television, you have to be mindful that the director really does have last say. It's his or her baby. And you're there to provide something beautiful for them, but it, ultimately a service in a way, in a crass kind of way. But so I do like the collaboration between that.
Yeah. Well, and it's so nice talking to you. And I mean, there are just kind of countless things we could talk about. But is there anything else in particular that I haven't touched on? Perhaps anything else recent or anything else coming up that you'd like to discuss that I haven't brought up, or have I gotten on
really.
some big ones?
That's what you've asked me is great. And
okay.
Yeah.
So, no, but yeah, I mean, it's, as I've said before, I have really enjoyed your music, and, a lot of these projects have really stuck with me. And so, yeah, it's been so nice chatting with you, and I hope we could chat again sometime down the line.
No, that would be great. On the next Bart Layton film, maybe.
Yeah, please. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, no, that would be great. It was really nice to chat to you as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Please, please stay safe and take care. Okay. These are crazy times. So
I know. Thanks. And you too. Are you coping all right? Are you just sort of stuck at home and?
Coping, I guess is the best as we can, I mean, our area is, most people seem to be taking it quite seriously, thankfully. And so, able to go out sometimes for work or this or that, but yeah, coping as best I can.
Oh, good. So. I know, it's crazy. I mean, I'm just hoping the vaccination will help. The vaccine will just get people out again. And
yeah.
We'll see.
Cross our fingers.
Exactly.
All right, everybody. I think that is about it for the show this week. Please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe on your way out. Thank you so much. You can also follow the podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at The Music Buds. Check out themusicbuds.com. And yeah, we hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, and we'll see you next time.